I cannot tell you how many videos are appearing in my suggestion feed on YouTube about this particular live streamer who I had not heard of before Friday. It's like Friday. Never heard of her before. My son's turning 29 this year. Um, so I'd never heard of her before. But apparently, this woman has been abusing children for like a decade, allegedly. Um, I already put a comment on Twitter that she needs to stay away from kids, but obviously, like, she doesn't know who the hell I am, right? But I'm getting suggestions from YouTube all about this woman, and I've already heard most of the allegations, I think. I'm waiting for Swoop's next video on this. Folks, it's not like you can't talk to kids if you're an adult. If you're going to be a mentor, a coach, you're going to be involved in like volunteerism or child sports. Um, but you do have to have an appropriateness about what you're doing, right? So she was an influencer amongst children and completely took advantage of these kids. She discussed sexually inappropriate material with them. She discussed her divorce with them. She asked them about their first experience with their periods. She asked them about whether they were virgins and what their favorite sexual positions were. Um, I also tagged the FBI. My understanding, based on Swoop's video, is that she is already under police investigation, but at the same time, she's on tour right now. She's on tour right now. Please watch your kids. Please watch your kids and their internet behavior and take a look at what they're looking at. Because I have seen so many abusers, not only online, but in person. Like, there are people within my own neighborhood who have coached their kids up to enact their political agendas, right? So, uh, when we first went into the pandemic, there were families in my neighborhood who were coaching their kids to fake cough. By the way, we have another pair. We have the fire department here again today. They come by sometimes upwards of 5 times a day because of the bullshit that happens in my neighborhood. I live in a very purple neighborhood where people did not believe the pandemic exists. They did not want to get their kids vaccinated. They didn't want to get vaccinated themselves. And I think we also have those safe houses where people are um, trying to recover from drug addictions and shit like that. I can only assume that's what's happening, because the amount of paramedics that come into my neighborhood is like nothing I have ever seen in my life before, in any other neighborhood I have ever lived in. And I just don't understand what is happening with these people that they need so much medical assistance constantly. It's crazy. I've only been in an ambulance once in my life, and it was about a little over a year ago, when the pain from the dog bite was so extreme that I just needed a ride to urgent care, and my boss insisted I call 911. I didn't need 911. That's a whole other story. I just needed a fucking ride to urgent care, but okay. Um, so this Colleen Let me turn that off. Let me turn that off. Let me turn the sound off real quick. This Colleen Ballinger person, who I had never heard of before, like Friday, was abusing um, young teenagers below 16. She was talking about sex with them. She was sending them nudes. This is all allegedly. I'm just watching the videos. But it's amazing to me how big this story has become, and how much YouTube is pushing it towards me. That I need to see all of these videos, right, YouTube? Um, she looks like a child, but has the voice of her voice is so deep she sounds like a man. She did the ukulele apology, and at the end of it, when she starts speaking, she sounds like a man. It's bizarre. It's fucking bizarre. The whole thing is weird. And apparently she got outed. First of all, one of her victims came forward in 2020, and then she turned her entire fan base against him. She drug a teenager on social media. Nice work. When you work with children, if you're supplying any level of information or content to children, which, by the way, you'll notice that every one of my videos is flagged not for kids. Every one of them. Even if I'm just singing a Carpenter song, every single one of them is flagged not for kids. Because I don't know if I'm going to drop an F-bomb, and I don't want to be responsible for that. But I do work with kids occasionally. Right now I'm on medical leave, but currently, like, I have definitely worked with kids in a lot of my organizing activities in the field and stuff. And I have young people call me. Um, and when I talk to them specifically about that content. How do you knock on doors and tell your story? How do you stay safe in the field? And I'm learning myself too, because, you know, it took me years of experience in the field to be able to have the kind of knowledge that I can impart to these kids about, like, how to get involved in political parties and how to knock on doors in a safe way. And obviously, I made a mistake because I trusted my management team and went ahead through a gate that I shouldn't have gone through, and I got bitten on the back of my leg. So I'm learning as well. But there is no fucking way I would ever have a sexual conversation with somebody else's child. Period. And the fact that that's what she's being accused of, and they have it as written proof that she was creating private chat groups and asking inappropriate questions to these hand selected children that she put into this group. This is so bizarre to me that, first of all, I think the reason I wanted to do this video is I think it's important to realize that men are not the only people who can be predators. Just because it's a female around your child doesn't mean that it's a safe situation. Clearly, she allegedly is not a safe person. And she's apparently on tour right now. And these venues need to cancel her dates. They gotta cancel her dates because this is disgusting. And the fact that it's popping up on my suggested video feed on YouTube so frequently by so many YouTubers that I didn't even know existed before. Obviously, it's a problem. And I hope that the FBI cracks down on her because that's some crazy crap. Like, she's trying to make it out like these are false allegations against her, which is re-victimizing. It's DARVO, right? Which I'm trying to remember what that acronym stands for. Deny, accuse. I don't know if I got the A right. Reverse victim offender, right? So she's trying to turn it into these kids are trying to ruin her. Really? These kids are trying to ruin you. Um, I understand what it feels like to have like false allegations. I had crazy ass MAGA neighbors who were coaching up their kids to harass me at my house. Um, and they still are acting rowdy in my neighborhood, not as bad as they were in previous years, but um, who come around, yell things. Um, the parents themselves egged my building, all because they were against the whole concept of flatten the curve. And I had a sign that was given to me by the Josh Newman campaign that I had on my balcony that said flatten the curve. And so I started getting harassed at my home. And it was largely because these parents were coaching up their kids. And so there was a video that I put out that said, look, if you keep having your kids come up to my building to yell shit up at me and flip the bird at me, I'm going to teach them bad words. And that was probably ill advised. That was an ill advised thing for me to say because it's certainly been used against me. And I've had all kinds of crazy crap said against me ever since that happened. That was like 3 years ago. But the reality is, they are abusing their children by using them as political weapons that way. And that's what this woman did too. She exploited these children. She exploited them. Um, and it's sick and it needs to be dealt with. And the fact that I'm getting more and more videos, like I can't even, I'm looking for comedy. When I go to YouTube, I'm looking for comedy and I'm looking for ghost stories like from Mr. Ballin, or I'm looking for just like political updates from like David Packman or Midas Touch or Brian Tyler Cohen or Michael Richard or Bo from the Fifth Column. That's what I want to see when I get on YouTube, and I am seeing nothing but Colleen Ballinger videos. And when if Colleen, if you had legitimate reasons for how you behaved, then you should have done a real response video, not a fucking ukulele, I'm going to appeal to children again. Like, you literally just fucking proved their case. Oh, I have a catchy little tune. That was so manipulative and bullshit. And every adult parent can see that. That was the craziest ass video ever. Like every adult parent looked at that with such cringe because we're like, oh my God, you're going to suck my kid in. Fortunately, my kid's 29, but I do have grandchildren. And not acceptable. Not fucking acceptable whatsoever. And that's how I feel about like the parents around this neighborhood too, who are using their children as political weapons to be as obnoxious and loud and destructive. Like we've had to weld the gate on the pool several times. We've had vandalism in the bathroom. We had kids throwing razor scooters into the landscaping to potentially destroy the sprinkler lines. We've had them yelling up at me, yelling up at I'm not the only person that's complained about this, by the way. I'm just the loudest because I have an internet following. Um, egging the building, that was parents. That was, I heard the voices when it happened. Those were deep voices. Those were deep voices. That wasn't kids. They're teaching their kids to be criminals, basically. Um, but what this woman did, she took her massive following and completely abused these kids, allegedly. It's disgusting, and I just I want to get this off my chest because like I would love to figure out how to stop YouTube from putting these videos in my feed.